A really good question from our friend Gerardo Zalata. Gerardo, thank you so much. Always good questions, good insights from you. We've received a letter from the interim USC president discussing upcoming cuts in staffing and top salaries. Do you see those cuts affecting the athletic department? Gerardo, I mean, excellent question. That's really important news. A lot of people around USC are talking about it. That's a big story. Thanks for bringing it up. To me, Gerardo, and obviously, Ethan, I'm going to ask you for your reaction to this, but to me, this cements Lincoln Riley as USC's coach next season, barring something crazy. I wrote at Trojans Wire, or we covered the story at Trojans Wire, but I also write at College Sports Wire, the other another College Wire partner site under the USA Today umbrella. And I said, like, this is going to cement Lincoln Riley for next season unless he goes 5-7. I think 7-5 would be a clear-cut failure. It would be really frustrating. We would all have pitchforks in our hands. I would, maybe Ethan would. I know just about everybody in the chat sure would. But I don't think he's getting fired if USC goes 7-5, because with all these cuts, limitations, transitioning, juggling the books, whatever you want to call it, you're not going to eat a Lincoln Riley buyout now, unless it's just complete fall off a cliff. And failing to make a bowl game would be the fall off a cliff. You have to start fresh. But with that 2026 recruiting class coming in and this situation, I think that the main story about the cuts and the financial precarity USC faces, to me, Ethan, the main takeaway is Lincoln Riley is going to coach next season unless he falls off a cliff. Your reaction?
Yeah, I mean, on Gerardo's question of if this is going to affect the athletic department, is it going to affect the football team beyond what you said in terms of it being like a really ugly PR move and also an ugly financial move to get rid of Lincoln Riley next year if they don't make, if they're being picky about it at least. I think other than that, does it affect the football team? No, it doesn't. I really don't think so. I think a lot of people tie together the athletic department's financials and the school's financials and act as if they're one and the same thing. The fact of the matter is that they aren't. That's kind of just how college, financial situations work. USC has a massive budget of billions of dollars, that apart from just the athletic department, in terms of academics and, a whole host of other things that USC is investing a lot of money into. So, and, despite the financial trouble, which has been brewing for a few years, this is not something that came out of nowhere. It's been building up a little bit. USC's been, full steam ahead on building the football facility, rebuilding the baseball field, building the new soccer field, getting everything ready for the Olympics, presumably, and also just, new eras and NIL and all this stuff in their college sports. It's been a total revamping. If you walk around campus, it's just a massive construction zone all the time. So I think that's a clear sign that while the school may be struggling, the athletic department really probably isn't. I think, donors are investing as much as they ever have. I think, I just think the deficit is more of like a Carol Folt / like academics side of things problem than it is like a Jen Cohen athletics side of things issue. Obviously, Carol Folt's gone out. That mentioned the interim president that's now having to deal with kind of the deficit. I think if it affects any of the athletic programs, it's going to be some of those smaller schools or some of those smaller teams, rather. The teams that don't even have enough scholarships to give one to every player on the team. They're having to divide, which is how it is at every sport at every school. It's not a unique USC thing, but they have to divide the scholarships up amongst the beach volleyball players, and the top 3 players may get full ride, and then you may have 6 more that get half ride, and whatever. That's how it is for a lot of the sports beyond the basketballs and football. So, and baseball to some extent. So I think if it affects any of the athletic programs, it'll be those. I don't really see football being affected too much beyond just like, it looks really ugly if you're like, we're in $200 million in debt. And also we're paying tens of millions of dollars and to get rid of our head football coach, who we will then have to pay, millions more dollars to bring in a new one that the fans will be happy with. Even though it's separate operating, budgets, and people don't donate money to the athletic program that they then take and give to the school and vice versa. That's not how it works. If you give money to the football team, your expectation is that they're going to put it towards the football team. That's, so it's two different budgets, two different, pots, if you want to put it that way. So yeah, I don't think the football team's affected too much besides what you said, because it's just an ugly PR move because people don't understand that the budgets are separate things. So then you just get a bunch of unneeded backlash about, they're just getting themselves in more debt and panic about USC and, all this bad PR stuff, basically.
All right, Ethan, we got another good question here from our friend Gixxer Squid. Gixxer asks, with the new TAF and decreased ticket prices, do you anticipate we'll fill more seats this year? Disheartening seeing so many empty seats. Hard to compete with other LA distractions. Now, this is something that, it's always a topic of conversation, or almost always. When Pete Carroll was rocking and rolling, everything was filled. But since then, this is just a constant point of conversation. Your thoughts about Gixxer's question, and will there be more seats filled at the Coliseum this year?
I think it solely depends on if we're going to win football games. And that's the unfortunate, harsh reality from someone that has been to all of the games, all the home games since 2021. People come when you're winning and they don't when you're not. And
okay,
that's
pretty direct to the point answer. Let me then just follow up. The first 3 games are Missouri State, Georgia Southern, at Purdue. So you'd think USC is going to be 3-0 heading into the home game against Michigan State. With that's going to be the first indicator, right? What do you think? What would you say right now would be ballpark for Michigan State attendance? I'm saying like 50. I'd put it like 57, 58.
Yeah, 60,000 is my guess.
Yeah, because it's just so cupcake rich those first 3 weeks. So I don't think that the joint's going to be filled for that one. Michigan, you'd think they'll fill it up.
Yeah, I think it'll be, 30% Michigan fans, but I think it'll be full of somebody. I mean, I have kind of a pessimistic take on that just because it's so disappointing to me. I think that USC fans, love our keyboard warriors. They love to spread a lot of negativity online about how unhappy they are with the program, but they don't often put their money where their mouth is and, and actually invest in the program at all. Don't support the program. They just, want to call everybody out. And, they're entitled to do that. They have First Amendment rights. I'm not going to tell anybody how to live their life or anything like that. But man, it's just disappointing to compare yourself to some of these other places in the Big Ten and the SEC where they have bad football teams every year. Nebraska is a great example. They've been horrible for 30 years.
75,000, they show up. Yep.
Every single Saturday. And yes, it's a different world in Lincoln than it is in LA, but still, I mean, we also there's also the population difference to account for. We just have more people in LA. So there's a million things to do, but there's also millions of more people here. So you would think that, there'd be at least the decent percentage of football fans. And I think that there are, because they come out of the woodworks when we're good. It's just a real fair weather culture and a culture that'll turn real negative real fast when things aren't going, swimmingly. I don't know. I want to be at the Coliseum every week, regardless of if we're good. I went to BYU USC in 2021 when we were 4-7, Thanksgiving weekend, and there was maybe 200 students at the game. And it was a great game. I'm so glad I went. It was a fantastic game. USC lost at the last second. It was one of my favorite football games of my college career. And if I, had let my pessimism, take over, I wouldn't have gone. And obviously, thousands of other students and fans didn't, because I'd say it was predominantly BYU. That was how sorry the state of the USC football attendance was. So I don't know, just the love for if people really loved it as much as they claim they do, I think that they would be there regardless. And I just. And they love to be on their high horse and say, "Oh, we're holding the program accountable if we don't pay money when they're not winning." Yeah, but why let that dictate your happiness so much. Like, show up to some games and watch football and have a great time, and don't let, that kind of stuff. And you can still be very vocal about, hey, this is what we want to see. And, the program still wants to make money. They're going to, regardless of if 50,000 people come every week, they want 70,000 people to come, and they want that, they can elevate ticket prices if it's a hot ticket game and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I don't know. It's always disappointing to me, but I think the only way we have a sellout that's 90 to 95% USC fans is if we're undefeated very late in the season. That's just the state of USC football right now.
Yeah. I think the point about, fans trying to hold the program accountable by, not buying tickets, you do that when a season has gone off the rails. You do that when you know that the team is underachieving or the coaching staff is underachieving. Like, you don't do it early in the season. See, here's the thing I think a lot of fans miss, the people who don't regularly show up. Early in the season, if you're filling a stadium for a 2-0 or 3-0 team, and USC should be 3-0 going into Michigan State, filling that stadium early in the season, even if it's not a sexy opponent, that sends a message to all the players and coaches. We're behind you. Like, we're giving you a chance. Maybe the season doesn't turn out the way we all hope, but at the start, we are here. But again, if it falls off the rails, then yeah, like if the team is 7-4, why are you going to that late season game? Like,
Friday,
to me, that makes sense. Like that makes sense as a protest because you were expecting more, you didn't get it. That's fair. But at the start of the season, if the team has not yet done anything to, not merit your trust or your faith, be there because that gives them a push into the middle of the season. That gives them a signal, a clear, tangible demonstration that, oh, this fan base wants us to do well. So for people who don't show up to early season games, it's a particular point of emphasis. I'm not talking about the full season. I'm talking about early in the season. Okay, it's Missouri State. It's Georgia Southern. So what? Show up. Give this team a push into the rest of this season. Players will be impressed. And recruits will be too. Now, that's another thing. Why not make the statement early in the season? If things go south, okay, yeah. Why continue to shell out money? That makes sense. But be there at the start. That's my thought.